Welcome. You are listening to the Louie Minor Show. I am your host, Commissioner Louie Minor. Today is July 15th, 2023. We have a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Let's begin the show with the agenda for the July 17th, 2023 meeting of the Commissioners Court. It will start at 9 o'clock at the historic courthouse. We begin with the invocation to the Pledge of Allegiance. We have the consent agenda. Consider approval of the minutes of the July 10th, 2023 Commissioners Court meeting. Personnel, budget amendments, claims, accounts payable, payroll, restitution, jury pay. Then we have a consider approval of a position changes for the auditor's office. And then E, consider approval of a quote OP-202501.7 with SQL data systems to refresh the county's core and edge networking requirements in the amount of $589,849.77 using DIR contract HPE DIR TSO 4160 and Syntex Fortinet DIR TSO 4075 for a budgeted CIP project with appropriate budget amendment. Then we have item 4, consider proclamation to proclaim July 17th, 2023 as Pretrial Probation and Parole Supervision Week. We have item 5, county engineer, consider and approve the final plat of Ash Family Trust being 12.358 acre, 5 lot, block 1 subdivision located in City of Temple, ETJ, Bell County, Texas, Precinct 1. We have item 6, consider adoption of the Bell County Thoroughfare Plan. We have item 7, consider and take appropriate action on order restricting outdoor burning ban. Item 8, consider removing the Bell County Fire Marshal's office from the Bell County Sheriff's Office. We have item 9, consider removing the Confederate monument for noncompliance with the updated building and ground use policy. We have item 10, consider approval of a resolution ending the Volkswagen litigation. And then item 11, county judge and commissioner announcements. Now let's go to our workshop. Our workshop for that day will be light because we have to go to commissioners, county judge and commissioners conference in Galveston that same day. So we will just be having a morning workshop with receive updates and reports, various county offices and departments, CIP, capital improvement project updates, the jail expansion, museum, Killeen Annex, and FY 2023 CIP plan. Then we have, we have budget meetings planned, not for the 17th, but we have the 25th, all day from 9 to 5. We have the 26th all day from 9 to 5, and we have the 28th, which is my birthday, from 9 to 5. Then we have just meetings that the commissioners may or may not all be there. We have the, like I mentioned, the commissioners conference down in Galveston. Then that 21st through the 24th, we have the National Association of Counties in Austin. Then on the 28th, there is a luncheon for the Commissioner's Court. And then also is a farewell in Waco, Texas for an individual at it. I guess I don't know who the individual is, Dr. Donald Kim. But anyways, that is everything on the agenda for the workshop agenda. So there are two things that I want to discuss on today's show. Both items I put on the agenda for this week for consideration. First thing I put on the agenda is that we'll talk about is the Confederate Monument again. Now, the reason why I put that on is because the county recently changed their building and ground use policy to say that the only flags that are allowed on county property to be displayed, flown, whatever, is the U.S. flag, the state flag, and the county flag, which is okay. You know, they obviously, I believe they have that right. It's been reviewed, and I agree that government can regulate government speech, and that's what they're doing here in this matter. So, given with that said, the Confederate Monument, if you go look at it, go down there and check it out. It has a big Confederate flag embossed, ingrained in whatever, entombed on the statue, which according to our policy, our new policy, it violates that. So I'm going to see if the commissioners want to comply with their own rule. My fellow commissioners, they voted on this. They enacted this policy. So I would hope that they would want to follow their own rules. I followed their rules. So I don't know. We'll see if that's something that they're willing to do, to follow their own rules. I would hope so, because if not, then you look like a hypocrite. But we'll see what my fellow commissioners will do on that matter on Monday, the 17th. I do know that a lot of people are interested in this. I do expect a lot of people to be attending the meeting in reference to this. So, yeah, come out, let your voice be heard. Should have an ability to speak on this matter, and we can go from there. The next item that I want to discuss, and we're going to go into the weeds on this a little bit, is the Bell County Fire Marshal's office, which is one person right now. According to the law, and let me pull it up real quick. It is Local Government Code, Chapter 352, County Fire Protection, and in there, in that statute, the County Fire Marshal, Subchapter B, Section 352.001, Creation of Office. The Commissioner's Court of a county may establish the office of the County Fire Marshal and provide office facilities, equipment, transportation, assistance, and professional services for that office. The Commissioner's Court shall establish the term of office for a county fire marshal for a period not to exceed 2 years. And that's it. That's all it says. Nothing else. Then in section 352.012, qualification for office. To qualify for office, The county fire marshal must take an oath prescribed by the Constitution of this state and post a bond as required by the Commissioner's Court, condition that the marshal will faithfully and strictly perform the duties of the office. The county fire marshal may not be directly or indirectly interested in the sale of firefighting equipment and may not be engaged in any type of fire insurance business. So that's qualification for office and the creation of the office. So when I came into office, I had an issue where I needed to get a hold of the fire marshal, and I did. I spoke to him, and he advised me that since the beginning of the fiscal year, which is in October, that he was moved over to the sheriff's office, and he was conducting, I guess, the sheriff's new deputy field training, whatever that requirement is for a new deputy. He is a licensed peace officer under the state of Texas, the fire marshal. So going to the sheriff's office, I guess the sheriff wanted him to perform this field training that he does for deputies, which is fine. I don't have any issues with that. The issue I did have was that my request that I was asking was to go out and do a nuisance complaint that a citizen was giving to me to check in on it, follow up on it. And the fire marshal said that because he's in this training and it's going to take a month or two, it would be a month or two before he could get out there and do that inspection, which I thought was not it. It was not what is the word I'm looking for? Not responsive enough. So what I did was I called the sheriff, spoke to the sheriff. He said he'd handle it. And I believe they did get out there and check on it and start taking care of that. But it got me thinking that why is the fire marshal now under the sheriff? I don't know why they did that. No one has really told me why yet, but fundamentally, I don't think that's where the fire marshal should be. That office should be an independent office unto itself. Why do you ask? Well, I've done construction projects, commercial construction projects all over the state of Texas. And I've dealt with many fire marshals' office all over the state of Texas. So I'm familiar with other offices in and around the state, how they work. And when you hear fire marshal, you think of arson investigation, anything to do with fire, which that is obviously in their title. That's a big reason why they're there is life and safety, protection of property. So yeah, that is a big portion of their job, but they have other duties as well. The fire marshal's office, like I said, they conduct arson investigations in the county. They also, per the code, is inspection or review of plans for fire or life safety hazards. So construction plans, development plans, anything that has to do with construction of commercial projects. Inspection of group homes is another thing that by statute they're required to do. And then service of process, they can do investigations, examinations in private. Also part of the plan reviews and inspections, that we can also assess a fee for that. So these are things that you'll issue permits for, charge a fee for. We know that the county is growing. We know that there are multiple MUDs, municipal utility districts, that are coming into the county that are going to require all of these services. 5 of them got through the legislation this year. So the legislature this year. So we need to start putting that framework in place now, so the fire marshal's office and the county is ready for it. We're not trying to put this stuff together on the fly. We also need to adopt a fire code in the county. Adopting the fire code will allow us to do all of these things. I went to the website for the Texas Counties Fire Marshal Association, and according to their website, if you go to it, it has a map. Texas has 254 counties in it. Of those counties, according to this map, there are 41 appointed fire marshals in the state, including Bell County. Of those 41, only 28 of those counties have adopted the fire code. Now, obviously, those are going to be the more robust, larger urban counties. And I think Bell County should have adopted the fire code already, but we have not. So that is something that I want the fire marshal to work on. Can he do it under the sheriff's office? Yes. And if the commissioner's court votes to keep him there, that's what I want them to do. You know, it would be odd seeing because like I said, I have a lot of experience with commercial construction all over the state. It would be odd to see a sheriff deputy car pulling up for an inspection, a commercial inspection. But at least that's the process that the county is moving towards, if we continue to allow the fire marshal to be under there. Other duties and responsibilities that we have here in the county, or for the fire marshal, is junk nuisance abatement. So if there's a lot of trash, dilapidated buildings, things like that on a property, there is a method to get that cleaned up, and that is done through the fire marshal's office. Burn bans, that's another thing that the fire marshal office is responsible for, recommending burn bans for the county. We also have game rooms, authorized game rooms regulation is enforced by the fire marshal here in Bell County. And we have a system set up here in Bell County too, where all of the volunteer fire departments, they submit what's called a run call. So every time they go out to a call, they log that in. The county pays them and the fire marshal is involved in all kind of that process of managing the run calls. That's our point of contact for all the volunteer fire departments. We do have an ESD, an emergency service district in Bell County in the Salado area, ESD number 1. That's relatively new. So how that works in the process, I think we're still trying to figure out. But the heart of the main point of this is, does the fire marshal's office belong under the sheriff? Well, I guess to me, no, the answer is no to that. But if you look at the statute, which what we fall under, I guess the commissioner's court can delegate its responsibility to the sheriff's department, the sheriff's office, to manage that. So it says that the commissioner's court shall or may establish a county fire marshal, and that the maximum term is not to exceed 2 years. So if we establish a fire marshal's office, and can the sheriff fire the fire marshal? I don't think so. And I think that's kind of where another question for me is, if he's under the sheriff's office and reports to that office, I mean, there's just a lot of questions as far as who he works for, the delegation of authority. Can you fire a fire marshal? At least the sheriff? I don't think so, not according to this. But those are questions that should have been answered before the fire marshal even went over there. To my understanding, the way things happened last year was the fire marshal asked for, I think, 3 deputy fire marshals to help him out with the workload required. And the thought process was he could go to the sheriff's department, and those detectives would get fire marshal training and be able to assist. I don't know how many of those have been trained, but I do know that none of them, 0, are qualified to do any of the commercial stuff, any of the fire inspections, any of the fire plan reviews. 0 of them. We only have 1, and that's the fire marshal's office. The fire marshal did tell me that he was notified of this after the budget, that he was moving to the sheriff's office. I don't think they really engaged him that much. Like I said, to me, this has nothing to do with any individual, not the sheriff, not the fire marshal, not even anyone on the commissioner's court. It has to do with what I fundamentally think that office should be. And none of those scenarios, I see it being under the sheriff's office. It's being an independent office, independent department unto itself. And that's what I'm going to advocate for. We had a workshop last week we had a workshop on it, and the sheriff did not agree with my stance, and I think the sheriff actually was pretty vocal, on at least to Commissioner Whitson, on what he thought. Now, I've spoke to Commissioner Whitson about this. He was the lone vote against it last year. And by vote, I mean they didn't take a a vote. It was just like a budget amendment where they deleted that department and moved them under the sheriff's office. So there was no official vote. I guess if you want to say they voted on the budget, then I guess you could consider that an official vote, but nothing that it was specific for the fire marshal's office. So Bobby voted against that move. All the other commissioners, and I guess including the judge, did. So now that I'm here and I support that move, Commissioner Whitson said that he supported that move, at least at the time. I think he still does. So, you only need 3 votes to make something happen on the commissioner's court. So there's 2 votes. So now we got to see if we can get one of the other commissioners or the county judge to support that move. And how do you think that office should function? Like I said, we did a workshop about this, and the sheriff was very vocal about it. I did receive a couple of phone calls, surprisingly, specifically about the fire marshal's office. I had another elected official call me up and said, I agree with you 100% that the fire marshal should not be under the sheriff's office. And I told him, I said, I appreciate your support. Please let the other commissioners know your stance. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take people to lobby for this. And how do you want your fire marshal's office working here? Those of us who know what a fire marshal's office does, you may not know, listening to this as a listener, everything that they do in the business world and the plans review world, the commercial, the construction world. You may just think about it as fire only. Why is the fire department, any fire department, why is that not under law enforcement or a sheriff's department? Because they have 2 different functions, 2 different roles. And I don't think having a law enforcement official in charge of that department, like I said, it's 2 different things. So, but anyways, that elected official, I told him to bring supporters, lobby other commissioners, and let them know how you feel. And hopefully that'll be enough to get there. But also, I got a phone call Friday, from the Temple Daily Telegram. And I thought they were calling to ask about the Confederate statue agenda item, but they were not. They were calling to ask about why I put on the agenda the fire marshal's office. So I told them, I explained to them what was going on. There was a video. I sent them the workshop video so they could get a little bit more background on why I brought it up. So I plan on I expect to see an article in this weekend's paper, or maybe on Monday, about the fire marshal's office and the plan to vote to move them. But I thought it was interesting that they picked up on that, and at least for the fire marshal's office, you can see that there are some things that try to get worked out behind, one-on-ones, keeping it out of the public view, out of public concern. But I think the public really needs to know what's going on in the fire marshal's office. And like I said, by office, I mean one person. This guy was asking for help. And because Bell County has a history of trying to do things as efficiently as possible, not spending money when it's an investment. And you can, there's already a couple of things that I've brought up that the county should be doing to charge, like plat reviews and the subdivision regulations. We're probably the only urban county that is not charging for plan reviews. So I'm still going to keep on pushing that. But these are services that are generating income for businesses that we should be charging. And right now, the county is subsidizing those businesses by not charging them anything. This is another aspect of that, an important one too. Fire, life, and safety is something that we should be very concerned about, and making sure that businesses are doing everything that they can and by the code to make sure that the public is safe in these buildings. And we're not doing that now. We could be charging a fee, and we should be charging a fee, an application fee, an inspection fee, a reinspection fee if they charge, having standards of building, commercial out in the county. But we don't have any of that. In the video from our workshop, Commissioner Whitson mentioned that a 2-story building went up, metal building out in the county, and it's a welding shop. A lot of combustible material in there. And it was built with no plan review, no inspections, no anything. They just built it. And Commissioner Snyder said, well, we need to go find them. But we can't, because we have not adopted the fire code that requires inspections and permits from the fire marshal. So, these are things that I'm going to bring up. I'm going to show the map of the fire marshal's office in the state of Texas, appointed fire marshal's office in the state of Texas. I don't know how up to date that map is. It doesn't give a legend of how up to date, how current it is. But yeah, these are things that are important. Now, this is me going against, I guess, the sheriff. But like I said, it has nothing to do with any individual. It's just the function of the office for me. Can all of the things that I mentioned occur under our current plan, where it's the fire marshal is under the sheriff? Yes, absolutely. I think it can. And like I said, I will push for that if this change doesn't happen anyway. Regardless of what happens on Monday in our vote, I'm going to push for the adoption of the fire code. I'm going to push for permitting and inspections of any structures, multifamily structures, commercial structures out in the county. And I'm going to push for fees associated with those. And that's how we're going to fund the fire marshal operations, is through those, or offset them, is through those inspection fees, permit fees, plan review fees. That's how we're going to do it. So, yeah, it like I said, it's going to be interesting on Monday, see how that shakes out. Like I said, I there's a lot of things on the agenda. I was surprised there was that many things on the agenda, because we got to go to Galveston for the commissioners conference that evening. So I believe Galveston is 4.5 hours away from Bell County. So anyways, that'll be on Monday. So stay tuned, listen, see what happens. So let's just switch gears real quick and go over some news that happened this week in Texas, at least on the Democratic side, for the U.S. Senate. here in Texas, we had another Democrat enter the race against Senator Ted Cruz. Right now, we have, at least on the Democratic side, U.S. Representative Colin Allred, a former, I think, NFL star out of Dallas. I don't know much about him, so yeah, we'll have to do some research on him. I do know that he posted some. Since his announcement, he made a little over $6 million, which is a nice chunk of money. But now we have Texas Senator Roland Gutierrez, that is known for being a representative of Uvalde. He was very vocal about Uvalde, being down there on the national news a lot, representing those families and trying to get some sensible gun violence or gun legislation this election, calling for a special session, trying to do something to protect our children in school, especially. And the only thing that the state legislature did was require security at every school campus, armed security that is a licensed Texas peace officer. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a police department or a certain police agency, but yeah, there's going to be a lot more law enforcement at schools, at least here in Bell County. There's a couple of school districts that have reached out to the sheriff's department wanting a school resource officer provided. Now, what they'll do is they'll pay the county and we'll provide a school resource officer. I don't know how many will do that, how many are going to be requested total, but I guess we got to see what happens there on that front. But yeah, another Democrat, Senator Gutierrez from San Antonio area, entering the race. And I look forward to a good Democratic primary for U.S. Senate. Will anyone else enter the race? I don't know. We have a state rep, at least in the Dallas area, it's high profile. And then we have a state senator who I think is known, at least have heard of what he stands for in the state. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting runoff. And like I said, I'll be eager to join on with those campaigns. Next thing that happened here in the state of Texas is we have a new Texas Attorney General. The interim Attorney General, John Scott, stepped down, and now we have a replacement. The replacement is Angela Colmenero, and I'll read from the governor's press release. Most recently named Governor Abbott's Deputy Chief of Staff after serving as a Principal Deputy General Counsel to the governor since November 2021. Prior to this role, she served as Deputy General Counsel to the governor starting in September 2018. Colmenero previously held various leadership positions for nearly a decade at the Attorney General's office, including Chief of General Litigation Division and Deputy Chief of the Special Litigation Division. She is a graduate of the University of Notre Dame Law School and University of Texas at Austin. So, from my understanding, she is the first woman to hold that position as Attorney General. So I guess congratulations to her. I do believe it's still being reported that the impeachment trial of suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton will be in September. So that'll be coming up here pretty soon. And then, whatever happens from that, I don't know if the governor has to call a new election or just appoint someone if he does get removed. So, or this individual, Miss Angela Pullmanero, will stay there. But anyways, that we'll see what happens in September on that trial. And the last big thing that made the news this week is the legislature finally agreed on a property tax bill. So according to a news article by the Texas Tribune, the House passed Senate Bill 2 with property tax cuts. Senate Bill 3, which is a franchise tax relief bill. And then House Joint Resolution 2, a constitutional amendment required to authorize the tax cuts. So, like I said, according to this article, $12.6 billion of that will go towards cutting school taxes for all property owners, dropping property taxes to an average of more than 40% for some 5.7 million Texas homeowners. So that's good. I like that. But the problem is that's only going to be for 2 years. It'll be for until the next legislature. Where's that money going to come from in the next 2 years? So are they really proposing for 2 years that our property taxes are going to reduce, for school property taxes are going to reduce 40%, and then after the next legislative session it's going to jump back up? Wow. Let's hope they can have something figured out by then, because if not, there's going to be a lot of mad taxpayers out there if that happens. So what are some of the other things that we're looking at? Homestead exemption. It's going from 40,000 to 100,000. Homestead exemption. So according to Senator Bittencourt, combined with the school tax rates and the homestead exemption, the average savings for a Texas homestead is $1,300 a year. Also included in this plan is a first ever temporary 20% cap on appraisal increases for properties valued at $5 million or lower that are not considered homesteads. According to the article, this will include second homes, vacation homes, rental properties, or commercial, retail, or business properties. So there's going to be a lot of new things that the state is trying out here. So I don't know exactly what will be on the ballot and how it would look or read in November for this constitutional amendment, but I fully anticipate people supporting it and it getting approved, because who doesn't want property tax relief for homeowners? Now, the theory is that's supposed to get passed down to renters and other things like that, but I really don't see any landlords passing those savings on to renters. I say that the offsets for the school, the billions of dollars of tax dollars that are going to pay the maintenance and operations for the school. That's great because we're not going to have to spend that much on our coming out of the property taxes. But there's no new funding for schools. Texas schools have been historically underfunded, and there's no teacher pay raises in this either. So there's rumors that in September, the governor will come up with another special session just to try and get student voucher program through. And I have, like I said, everything I've read, the reason why he's trying to do that is if he did it now, there'd be a lot of teachers there. In September, teachers will be back in school. So I guess he's thinking that they won't be out there advocating against school vouchers like they would in the summertime if they did a special session in the summer. So the bill's not perfect, but it gives Texas taxpayers some money back, offsets some of their liabilities for at least 2 years, and that's something I believe we all can support. So thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.